Hi guys, so my name's Alexandria Gunter, and my study is the effectiveness of using error correction to label a family member and a child with ASD. So for my introduction, my study was done on a client of mine. For the sake of the study, his name is Andrew. He's a 4-year-old boy, just turned 5, actually diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. And my research question was, will error correction increase Andrew's ability to detect his father? So this study was conducted in the clinic setting in natural environments and during DTT at the table. I want to do this to promote generalization and identifying dad, because you're not going to just identify your dad at a table. It's going to be in all settings. He receives about 30 hours a week, and he comes 5 days a week. I chose this goal because it's a socially significant goal from his VB map. He has listener responding with family members. So I also wanted to take it a step further and have him tact dad, since he can already tact mom. And this goal is age appropriate for a 4-year-old. Typically at 2, I believe, they're already identifying their parents. And he has an AAC device, so we're working on man, so it would be nice. He is verbal, so it would be nice if he could verbally man for his dad and mom. So literature, I have a couple of things from my literature matrix in here. One was from Professor Juan, where he used error correction in a multiple baseline design, such as my design. Another one with Wafa Al-Jahani in 2022 showed error correction being more efficient than the other intervention they used in his study. And then another study that used transfer trials while teaching tacting, the mastery ended up being 83%. And I chose this one because I used transfer trial in my error correction procedure, which we'll talk about next. So my methods, like I said, I used a multiple baseline design. We used 3 different staff members instead of doing 3 different family members during this design. The independent variable was error correction, and the dependent variable was tacting dad and the percentage of correct responses, which you'll see on the y-axis. My data collection was a self-made data sheet, which included the date, the staff member that was doing the intervention or the baseline, if it was baseline or trials, and any notes, comments, such as like what prompt was used. Was it, we did least to most prompting, verbal prompting. So was it a full verbal, a verbal cue, partial verbal, and then the percentage of correct responses. So for baseline, we had the materials ready, such as a pen, data collection paper, a picture of dad, and identified reinforcers. We'd always do a preference assessment to see what he was motivated for, obviously. So we'd give the SD of who is this, in hopes he would say dad. If he didn't, we'd mark it correct or incorrect. And then we'd just praise in a neutral tone of, like, thanks for answering my question. Moving on to the intervention phase, if he got it correct on the first attempt, an insane amount of praise, like, yes, this is dad, nice job tacting dad. And then providing the reinforcer. But if not, we would go into error correction, where we'd be like, who is this? Dad. We'd go through it like that with least to most prompting. Whichever prompt was successful, that's what we would use when we did the error correction. And we'd always do a transfer trial, such as like clapping hands, touching his nose, simple tasks like that. And then if he didn't get it correct on the first error correction, we'd try it again at least 2 more times, and then we'd be done. So for the discussion, you'll see on my graph that there's the start of an upwards trend on Allie, my graph. Next is Desiree and Elijah. So for this study, it was supposed to be 4 or 5 week study, and we had to do it in 2 because we had Andrew was out, Desiree and Elijah were out, so they couldn't implement the procedures. And the data points are minimal, but you can see an upwards trend. But what the data doesn't show you on this graph that my data sheet does is that at the start of error correction, for all of us, we were using full verbal prompts is what we were using, because that's what he got the correct answer with dad. And then by the end of my data sheet, it was a verbal cue. So I can hypothesize that it was working, but you're not able to see it with the data because we were in such short time getting it done. And then my schedule was also changing since technicians and kids were out sick, so we just didn't get as much time as we thought we would with the kid. I usually have him every single day, and I mean, for 2 weeks there, I didn't see him, I think. So the results, With him, I did experience non-compliance, which wasn't something that I thought I would, but with edible reinforcers and his reinforcers, like reminding him, like, what are we working for, and showing him, I did regain his attention. And there was no need for a phase change line after the first time of non-compliance with not looking and not giving me his attention. We pretty much got it under control with his reinforcers and edibles. And there's not enough data to say whether or not the intervention was successful, but we will continue to use the error correction throughout the rest of like his time teaching him to tag dad. Here I have a list of my references. But yeah, thank you guys for watching.